Welcome to the Women in Technology Spotlight. I'm so happy to have you here for this new episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our further episodes. Today I have with me Amanda Bertucci. She is a sales engineer at Virtuozzo. She is also ambassador for the Presales Collective and an I Am Remarkable facilitator. Welcome, Amanda.
Thank you, Rampin. It's a pleasure to be here and talk to you in the other side of the screen.
Thank you so much for joining the session. I'm always so happy to have new role models on this series. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from Brazil, born and raised in São Paulo. I currently live in Barcelona, been here for 4 years now. And I, like you said, I'm a sales engineer. I think that that's a big part of who I am. I'm a mother of a 7-year-old, married to a Polish man, and as you can imagine, living in a multicultural environment as it is. And yeah, I love technology. I'm a little bit of a geek in that sense, and yeah, I just love working with sales engineering because you get to help customers and work with technology at the same time. So that's really good for me. So yeah, that's pretty much who I am.
You say, so sales engineers, who you are, it tells me a lot about you. And it does. But for those who don't know what sales engineer does, and tell me a little bit more about why that is such a big part of you and why that describes you.
Well, so sales engineering, like I said, the main objective of the role is to help customers get the right solution for the problems that they're trying to solve. So it takes, a lot of listening, a lot of empathy, a lot of, problem solving, thinking about what is the best solution for them, and just presenting things that are hopefully going to make them happy. So I think that human interaction is something I really like. And at the same time, working with technology and bringing technology to people. So I think that's, for me, it's like the best of both worlds,
I feel that describes it really well. So there's this part, you said you were a little bit of a geek, and I do understand that because I am myself. And then there's the part around the relationship building and the communication. And I think everyone who's a sales engineer loves those things. And then you talked about problem solving, right? Just finding the right solution for a customer can be so satisfying.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you think about your day-to-day job, which are the skills that you use the most?
Well, I have to say that listening is one of the main skills being a sales engineering, I'll go back. So I have to say that listening is the main skill in sales engineering, just because you need to understand what that customer is going through, try to put yourself in their shoes. You have information coming from your account executives as well. So, you need to be able to filter what's coming to you in terms of what is being said, and try to translate that into your own offering, and being able to, just say, I think it's better to do it this way or that way, or not do it at all, and have the maturity of, selecting each path. Mm-hmm. So I think that listening skills are really important. Then, problem solving is really important, and communicating clearly, having empathy, trying to put yourself in the customer's shoes. All of those things are really, really important. Mm-hmm. So the communication part, it can be intimidating for people sometimes. But this is something that you need to develop as you become a sales engineer. Right?
I love that you actually talked about, like listening and communication, and before actually, and you never even mentioned technology. And yeah. I really like that, because I think when you think about being a woman in tech or working in technology, everyone first thinks about technology. But the interesting thing is, when you're a sales engineer, the soft skill, as we call them, come first. And then afterwards, of course, you have to have an understanding and a love for technology, but it's so much more important to develop those side of the skills.
Yeah, and I think that traditionally people focused more on the technical side of it, To be a good sales engineer, you would have to be a super expert on a product and know each and every little detail, which is not bad. It's good, but it's not just that, you know. And I think that, I mean, I've been in pre-sales for over 15 years now, been in the IT industry for over 20. And historically, it's been like that. You know, if you're in the technical side of things, you need to know every bit and byte. And what I've seen happening throughout the years is that the sales engineering role is becoming more relevant on the sales world, you know. So it's not just the techie that the account executive takes along to talk about the bits and bytes of the product, but we are part of that sales motion, right?
Yes.
So.
Very, very true. And I've also seen the same thing, the change in the sales engineer role. And I also feel that because of that, there are more women in these roles because they actually enjoy this part, you know, the listening, the communication, the empathy that you talked about. So, and you told me just now that you're already like 20 years in tech, 15 years in sales engineering positions. Did you always know that you wanted to go into tech? Is that something you knew as a child?
Well, when I was a child, I went through all the phases, right? And I see my daughter going through them now. Like I wanted to be like a truck driver or a firefighter, all of those, you know. But ever since I was very little, I wanted to be an astronaut because I think that's very compelling to children, right? I wanted to fly to the moon and all those things. But growing up, this is something I was always interested in. You know, I grew up in the 80s, 90s, so the video games were coming in. My dad gave me my first computer when I was like 9 or 10. And I didn't knew how to do much. I knew how to put on diskettes and run games, you know, but when it came to choosing a career path in high school, because I went to a technical school back there in Brazil, and you would have to, you know, do the regular classes in high school and then choose a technical area to study. And I went to electronics. It felt attractive to me, and when I finished that course, I was 17 years old. I needed to do an internship, and the job that I chose at the time was in a company that did training for IT. So my very first contact with that as a professional was, you know, seeing how many possibilities you have in that world. You know, you can be a web designer, you can work with infrastructure, you can do programming. So there were so many possibilities, and I felt comfortable with that. I liked it. So yeah, I have to say I was always attracted to things boys did because I was always challenged by them in terms of, well, you can't do this, you're a girl. And I would be like, yeah, I can do this, you know, and just go and do it.
Yeah, I was very intrigued when you said you always wanted to be like an astronaut, and because this is a very boys thing to say. Unfortunately, I mean, I love that you actually wanted to be an astronaut, because I was always also more interested in technical stuff, unlike many other girls who had been, you know, like pushed into this girly interests. Yeah. So I love that you said, and I also find it interesting that you say that your father gave you a computer when you were 9, which is also uncommon. So did your father also work in tech, or was he just also interested in technology?
My parents always encouraged me to do what I wanted. I have a brother, and most of my cousins were boys. I've had a role model, which is one of my second cousins. She's an engineer. And she's a person that always pushed me to, you know, do what I wanted to do, because it was hard for her growing up. She's almost like, she's my second cousin. She's my dad's age, but she was a person that gave me so much support to, you know, as I was growing up. And I think that when I was trying to play with the boys when I was a kid, of course, I was a girl. I'm physically a girl, right? And I would try to play football with them. I would try to get into their games, and eventually I would get hurt. And I would come crying to my dad, and my dad would say, "Look, if you want to play with the boys, you have to learn how to play with them. And if that's what you want to do, go and do it. You can do it, you know." And when it came to like choosing a career, or even when my dad gave me a computer, I think that he saw that in me, you know, and
Yeah.
My parents were very supportive growing up, and I think that really made a difference for me.
I feel that what your dad said about the learning to play with the boys, that is such a good reflection of what we had to go through to work in IT, right? I mean, to be successful here, I feel like, yeah, you have to learn how to play with the boys, unfortunately. I mean, it's getting better because there are more women here. But yeah, that has such a profound ring to me.
It's encouraging from
Mhm.
one side, but from another side, it's I mean, the times are changing, right?
Yeah.
The way that things were 20 years ago are very different than they are now. But 20 years ago, in order to be able to play with the boys, in IT, that I mentioned it in different interviews as well. I had to kind of look like them, wear my
Mhm.
hair up, lower my voice pitch, dress like them, talk like them, and unfortunately sometimes reproduce some of their behaviors, which are not nice, especially towards women.
Mhm. Yeah.
But I think that's a journey as well. And as society is changing, the industry is changing, I think that we need to be mature enough to reflect on those behaviors of the past and change them too.
Yeah. And
So
that is, I think that is the reason why it resonates so deeply with me, because for me too, to be successful here, I had to learn how to play with the boys. You would get hurt, and then you had to go and learn the rules and
yeah.
become stronger. And that is not necessarily a good thing. And I'm really glad that it's changing and that we are creating this more inclusive space. But it feels like something that I had to go through too. And I think your dad at the time gave you that tip, which was relevant for you, actually, just always going back and trying again.
Yeah.
So, but the other person I'd like to talk about in your life is your second cousin,
Yeah.
who you say was a role model. Do you feel that it made a difference having someone in your life, seeing someone who doing the same thing that you wanted to do?
Yeah, so I think that growing up, I had two women that really were role models for me. One of them is my cousin. She's an amazing engineer. She's been very successful over all of her life. When I was a teenager, she was working at an editorial company. They produce science magazines, and she
Mhm.
actually subscribed on these science magazines for me and would send them to my house. And she was always like encouraging me and giving me tools, right? And the other one is my mom, because my parents divorced when I was like 13, and I actually saw my mom coming from being like a housewife and starting her own company, and having to raise two kids, me and my brother, and seeing that strength and her putting herself out there. I think that also was a huge example for me. So and of course she was always really supportive, encouraging me to go study electronics, go do what I wanted to do. And
Mhm.
yeah, I think these two were really important for me growing up.
And I love how you talk about, seeing these two women and feeling inspired by them, because I just recently read a book where it was a lot about how we perceive competence and how we perceive leadership and how we perceive authority. And I think having women in your life that model these things to you makes it easier for yourself to see yourself in that way. And I think a lot of us women are struggling, exactly with the lack of these pictures. So I have a question, because you said you went to this technical school. It's a question around gender balance at that school. Were you alone, or were there other girls who were interested?
It's always like in a classroom of 40, there would be like two or three of us in the class,
Okay.
and not just for not just for women, but like one of my best friends in the technical course is a gay guy.
Oh, okay.
And he only came out, as a gay guy after we finished high school,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
you had to feel into that standard, right?
Mhm.
White, male, straight. And it's hard because it's very intimidating walking into a room knowing that you're the different one. And yeah, you just, you kind of hide yourself, or you try to put on a mask, or try to disguise yourself as much as you can, not to stand out, you know.
There is a word for that, actually. It's covering, and it's a term that's, I think it's more well known in the US, but that's what people do when they're different from the mainstream. And again, this reminds me, I read too many books, I'm sorry. It reminds me of this other book. It's called The First, the Few, and the Only. And it's about women in certain, it's actually mostly about women in corporate environments, Black women or women of color. But when reading it, I could relate so well to this thing, because it was the same for me in these spaces where I went, where there were men and they were white. And that was, you know, this picture of what an engineer or someone working in tech is. And that is something that you might struggle with, I guess. And also, if you're a gay man or if you're a Black man, it's just the situation that you are the odd one out, I think.
Yeah.
And but since you mentioned this, what helped you get through that?
I liked studying electronics. I've always liked IT. And of course, throughout the journey, you suffer a lot of explicit aggressions and microaggressions as well. And you know, it's just, I think it's kind of that ability of trying to transform that into something that kind of makes you stronger. I know that's super cliche, but you know, it's tiring, but you know, each step that you go further, I think you look back and you're like, okay, I achieved this, I can move more, and so on and so forth. And I think that what was very tiring, and what I always struggled with, was having to prove myself all the time. You know, when you see like a guy doing something, or you know, a guy sales engineer, everybody just assumes that they're good. Just because they have the title, they're a guy, okay, they must be good at what they do. And being a woman, I feel that still today, obviously not in the same intensity, I would say, but still today, I feel like I need to, you know, show that I really know what I'm talking about. So, you know, that there isn't something I can say, well, if you do this, that's going to work, but maybe trying to resignify this aggressions that you end up suffering, and trying to get them to make you stronger. You know?
I think it's, I think part of it is reframing what happens to you into a learning experience, instead of like something that puts you down. And I agree, it takes energy, and the question is how you refuel that energy. And what I also think is what it makes us do, and I think it's the same for you, is we try to help other women have an easier life of it, the ones coming behind us, because I see you're also an I Am Remarkable facilitator, for example. What made you go and do that? I would like to know.
So yeah, that started during when the pandemic kicked off, and the first lockdown here. I took that very badly, to be honest. You know, like I think I can be kind of a controlling person, and going through that thing that was completely out of my control, and there was nothing I could do about it but to comply with the lockdown. That really hit me, and I started, you know, okay, let's see what I can do from this. And I started looking for things that would you know, help me learn something new. Or I think a lot of people went through that during the lockdowns, right? That's how I found the Presales Collective, and that's how I found the I Am Remarkable initiative. So I started doing this with my, you know, closest circle of friends. I actually took the workshop myself, then I took the facilitator training, and I started like in my inner circle, and I saw the impact that had on people. And then I started doing it at the company where I was working at the time, and it just exploded. You know, how you see how many people you can impact with that. And I think those are things that not just women, but other minorized groups can really relate to, because we're not encouraged to self-promote. We're frowned upon if we self-promote.
Yeah.
And it's I really like this word, like reframing. You know, I do a lot of self-promotion today, because if I don't do it, who's gonna see me? You know. Should I wait for a guy to give me a voice? You know, I need to stand up for myself. And I think that if I can plant a little seed on one person, that might expand, and that person can then move, plant that seed forward on somebody else. So
yeah, totally. And that your story reminds me so much again of my own, because same thing happened for me when the lockdown started. All of a sudden there was this void also. It was not, you couldn't go out, you couldn't do anything. And then all my activities, I had been doing so many different things and activities, and I had to, regroup and find like a new way to live my life in this four walls. And I also stumbled across the I Am Remarkable workshops. I took a workshop, and then I realized when I saw in this workshop how it impacted a lot of the women who were in there, I felt this is something I have to do. And then I took the course to the training to do it myself. And then I started doing the courses, because I really believe that we must speak up for ourselves. And I do know how hard it is. I do know that every time I've gotten so much better at it, but still when I do something new and I post about it, then I have this moment where I think, should I be doing this? Should I be talking so much about myself?
Yeah.
And I had this really amazing woman on one of my interviews. I haven't published it yet. It's coming in the next week. But I talked to her, and she said, because you mentioned, should we ask men to do it for us? And she said, never ask someone for permission to do something. They can't give you permission. The only one who can give you permission is yourself. And I love that so much, because we always do that. We look at our parents, we look at the people around us, and we're basically asking for permission. But that is unnecessary. And I love that you also see this now, and you promote yourself and what you're doing, because you're right, there's no one out there who will do it for you. And tell us a little more about the Presales Collective, because you said you met that at the same time, kind of, and what attracted you to that?
It was so crazy. I don't know if you're gonna get the reference, but there's a movie from, I think it's the end of the 80s or early 90s. It was a children's movie about these dinosaurs looking for like this place, because the bad things were happening to the climate on Earth, and they needed to find like this place where all the dinosaurs were going. And when they get there, they see this beautiful place with all the little dinosaurs. And that's how I felt when I found the Presales Collective. Oh my God, there's so many other dinosaurs here.
All of us are here.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's been such a great experience. I've learned so much with so many amazing people. I've connected with a woman, you probably know her, Natasha Bax. She's very prominent in the pre-sales world, and she is, I consider her one of my mentors, and she's a person that gave me a lot of strength when I was moving between one company and the other. And, just being able to connect with these people and see that sometimes we go through the same challenges. And I think that what gave me a really, really good impression is that the mindset of the people, like that they're so receptive. I feel heard, I feel respected. And this is going to sound horrible, even though I'm a woman, I've never felt in the Presales Collective anything that I felt in other places, even recently. I didn't see that in the Presales Collective. They're very open, and they're just there to help each other. So I took that as another way of giving back. So I started doing the I Am Remarkable, and I started participating in the Presales Collective, and that's a group made by people to people. So yeah, that's really rewarding.
I can relate to this feeling of, finding your tribe kind of, because I mean, even within tech, sales engineering is a very specific thing, and having all these people who do something similar. And I think I'm not that active because I have all these networks and I'm already overloaded with activities kind of. But I always, I am also in the collective, and I, from time to time I see what they're doing, and they, they have all these training sessions on how to do a demo, and you can learn a lot of things. And I think it's so great to have all these people who are going through similar things. You said your mentor, she helped you with the transitioning from one company to another, and I realized that I completely forgot to ask you how you came from Brazil to Barcelona and to your current company.
Yeah,
but I think those are the stepping stones, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, just going back in time a little bit further, I got married in Poland, and then we decided we wanted to live in Brazil. We were there for 5 years, and we love it. My family is there and everything, but we had my daughter was like 3 years old at the time, almost 4, and we thought we would raise her better if we were in Europe. She would have more opportunities, and we would have a more I think that safety was a very important thing, like yes. And the fact that Brazil, even though it seems like it's a very open and liberal country, it still has a side where machismo is still very present in the society. It's very hard being a woman in Brazil. And
I have to say something. I watched Love is Blind Brazil, and I was so shocked about how much
that
the men were.
That's how it is. They're little boys, and I think that just adding to that, my husband is a stay-at-home dad. Ever since we moved here, we decided, I already had a job set up for me here when we moved, and we decided it would be better for the family if he would take over like the house and our daughter and everything. And it's a setup that really works for us. There are very few Brazilian guys that would accept something like that, so there's a mindset that is quite complicated there. And with my husband, we had to hear from a lot of people like, oh, are you sure? Why is your family set up like that? Doesn't he feel like less of a man because he's a stay-at-home dad? And you have to hear these things, and it's horrible. And I for me, it's an aggression, but it is
a microaggression, just like all these other little things that when people question the way you decide to live your life or who you are. Exactly. And I love that you're doing this, and I love that it works, because I mean, why not? There is
why not? Yeah. And well, the company I worked for at the time, I actually had a guy here in Europe that already knew me and already knew my work and everything. And he fought really hard for them to create a new head count for me here. And then we came. So it was, a lot of help from this guy to, set up the environment and create a position for me. And yeah, he's also one of my mentors and one of the people that really pushed me to do things after I got here, because I was content with, just taking an inside sales engineer job, and an opportunity came for a management position. And he was one of the main people that supported me into getting into that, so yeah. That's how my journey here started.
Yeah. I would love to talk to you even more, but I'm seeing that our time is running out. So I'm just going to ask you my last question that I ask every woman on my series. What would you recommend to young women coming into the field? What would you tell them?
I think it goes down to don't give up. Don't give up, there are others out there just like you. There are others that have probably been through the same, and we have to stop this thinking of women competing against each other. We need to support each other, and if you look, you will find people that can support you. So don't give up. Reframe these aggressions and move on, because they're going to make you stronger. And that's it. Don't give up.
Yes, I love that. I've heard this a couple of times, and it always rings true. Don't give up, because you don't know what will come next, because the next step might be the one that makes you successful or makes you happier or take you to your goal. So just don't give up. So thank you so much for your time, Amanda. It was lovely chatting with you. And yes, I hope to talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Ronke. I would stay here for more hours talking to you, but thank you for the opportunity and for opening the space for me. It's been a pleasure.